ESPN fired Elle Duncan after she made a shocking comment about Caitlin Clark. Unexpectedly, ESPN has drawn public attention once more, this time for firing Elle Duncan, one of its important executives. Why? It all began with Duncan's unrelenting attack on Caitlin Clark, a WNBA rookie who has been nothing short of remarkable. Duncan adopted a different stance, one that ultimately resulted in Clark's demise at ESPN, rather than praising her outstanding achievements. Let's take a moment to grasp how Duncan's behavior resulted in her termination from ESPN before getting into the specifics. It should not be surprising that she received criticism because charges without proof are rarely warmly received by the public, and ESPN's decision to cut connections was inevitable. We'll examine the core of the dispute today, examining why ESPN made this audacious move and how Elle Duncan's criticism of Caitlin Clark turned into what many now refer to as a witch hunt. However, this story is not as simple as it first appears. As we unveil all the details, stay tuned. Let's hear from Danik, who talked extensively about the injustice of the situation and Duncan's strategy. He draws attention to the contradictions. It's one thing to criticize, but Duncan's strategy went too far and started making personal assaults. The fact is that Duncan's comments touched a nerve, not in the way she had hoped, which is a painful pill to chew. She immediately encountered criticism from supporters, analysts, and even other commentators who questioned her decision to highlight Clark's alleged privilege rather than her evident skill on the court. Let's examine Dak Hicks' remarks regarding Duncan and the apparent jealousy among ESPN's pundits in more detail. Although his comments were unpleasant, they also mirrored the views of many onlookers who felt that while criticism is legitimate, it loses credibility when it appears to be motivated by jealousy. Nothing less than revolutionary has been Caitlin Clark's debut in the WNBA. She leads the league in points per game and has improved women's basketball, thus her numbers speak for themselves. Since her debut, her audience has increased by around 40%, attracting people from all across the country to see her perform. Nevertheless, Duncan was intent on destroying Clark's accomplishments in spite of this success. Let's go back to a point in Duncan's comments that many people feel went too far. It's difficult to persuade viewers when your arguments are based more on jealousy than on reality. In actuality, Caitlin Clark's experience is far but privileged. Competing against players from all backgrounds, she has encountered many challenges on and off the court. Since Duncan was unable to identify any real shortcomings in Clark's performance, many saw her story as an outright attempt to discredit Clark's accomplishments. Duncan persisted in her criticism in spite of this. Consider how Clark dominated the court and disproved her detractors. She was garnering media attention for all the right reasons. As we proceed, let's look at how Duncan's comments were directed not only against Clark, but also at her supporters. Analyst Dan Day was unreserved in his criticism of the obvious inconsistency, arguing that Elle Duncan's criticisms were motivated more by a deeper animosity for Clark's quick ascent to stardom than by any valid grievance. This simply made an already heated situation worse because fans dislike being classified or labeled. There is a fire blazing beneath all of the turmoil. Contrary to her critics, Caitlin Clark remained committed to her basketball skills and talked about her admiration for her teammates and commitment to the game in interviews. Although Clark avoided using harsh language or being negative, her competitors tried to attract attention to themselves in a number of ways. Let's see how Angel Reese, one of her detractors, attempted to change the course of events. She still has admirers, which makes sense considering that sometimes it's best to let your skills do the talking. But the drama doesn't stop there. Let's listen to Dan Dockey again as he reveals the arrogance of certain ESPN pundits. Clark is a class act off the court, as well as a star on it, as seen by the innumerable admirers she has gained for her humility and dedication. Given that she represents a welcome change in a sport that sorely needs optimism, it is no surprise that so many people are supporting her throughout this dispute. Clark didn't let the turmoil distract her from her game. Her harsh remarks pierced the story and revealed the hypocrisy that many followers had suspected. What are the implications of Duncan's resignation for ESPN's future? The network's consequences are only getting started. To get a more complete picture, let's stand back. When Caitlin Clark entered the spotlight, some Black women in the WNBA felt compelled to take her down, both literally and symbolically. Other Players, especially black women, started to confront Angel Reese at mid-court after she and her teammates decided to back Clark, claiming individuals like Asia Wilson for being envious. It's difficult to avoid wondering if there's more going on behind the scenes when things begin to feel like a concerted effort. Let's now examine Clark's impact outside of the court and the reasons why others have found it difficult to equal hers. Fans rallied around Caitlin Clark and her followers when they just joined the league, without causing any drama. But all of a sudden, she is being targeted from behind by athletes like Kennedy Carter. What do you believe? The topic of discussion will be, I am referring to Caitlin Clark, who attracted over 1 million spectators to a game against the Lynx, which was in competition with the NFL in spite of her illness. That's a fantastic sporting accomplishment. Hey, you're great, but you're not that great, says Shaq, who I'm honestly beginning to doubt. Relax. Asia Wilson and Diana Taurasi are still with us. Let's face it, nobody is interested in Asia Wilson. America's most valuable but undeveloped athlete is uncared for. Before recently, no one gave Caitlin Clark or Diana Taurasi any thought. This isn't the same, Shaq. Despite her greatness, Asia Wilson's game has been lacking. Despite becoming a legend, Taurasi hasn't had the same impact as Clark. This is about more than simply numbers. It's about style, passion, and grabbing the viewer's attention. That's all Caitlin Clark possesses. It will take time to determine if ESPN can refocus on what truly matters, supporting athletes who improve the game, even though Duncan's departure sends a clear message. Caitlin Clark has thus far shown that no amount of criticism can take away from her brilliance. She continues to serve as a reminder of what can happen when skill and willpower come together. ESPN appears to be making an effort to disassociate itself from the poisonous drama that has clouded what ought to be a celebration of extraordinary skill such as Clark's. I appreciate you watching. If you found my analysis interesting, please subscribe, like, and comment below. Keep following the game till the next time, and let's recognize the people